first of all, people need to understand the context that why the age or the lifespan of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is crucial. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said that God has decided that he wants to give a sign to the future generations so they can verify the truthfulness of my claims. And then he said that in order to give that sign, this is the sign God has decided to give me. They said that God has told me that my lifespan would be 80 years or close to it. Now this is the significance, because if we miss this perspective, then the whole thing is just blurry. So this is the actual perspective. This is how the thing started. Now the question is, their entire response is revolving around one thing, and that is, back in the days it was not customary to document the birthdays. Hang on a second, that's not the question. God was going to give the sign, and God knew very well that in order for people to verify this sign, they need two things: date of birth, date of death. Date of death, no problem, everybody will knew that eventually. Date of birth was one single piece of information which God must provide. If God was going to give the sign, then it is God's responsibility to provide information, i.e. the date of birth.
Otherwise, what's
the point? How is that sign?
What sign?
So basically this, now this is again the academic thinking. If this is the context, then their official response, as they gave to you as well, that back in the days it was not customary. No, it was not customary to document the date of birth. No, but that's not the question. It was God to give the sign, and God, I guess that God knew his date of birth. I guess. Okay. Now the next thing is, Declan, that when they are trying to cover up this whole thing, I want to ask them a question. How come that up until 1908 there was no controversy on Mirza's date of birth? Lahori Jamaat, Qadiani Jamaat, first Caliph Hakim Nuruddin, Mirza himself, all of them unanimously said 1839 or 1840.
Wow.
Unanimously said.
Okay.
And Mirza himself, on oath.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's very important to mention, Imtiaz.
Mirza Ghulam Qadiani appeared in the court of Gurdaspur in 1900 or 1901, one of these two. And he said under oath, he said, I am close to 60. When? In 1901 or 1900, one of these two. We know for sure he died at 1908. So if you do the math, he's 69, number one. Number two, when they are coming up with their number of 1835, they are being unacademic. Why? Because the parameters they are using other people. Mufti Sadiq, one of the disciples of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, he says that Mirza told me, we have no evidence by the way, he said Mirza told me he was born in such and such month of the Indian calendar. Now the question is, how come that you want to depend on Mufti Sadiq, a secondary person, and leaving Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, his son and his caliph? And secondly, how come? That's the main key point now, because the whole context is quote unquote divine. God is giving the sign, right? If Mirza Ghulam, now they say that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was mistaken when he was telling his date of birth. Hang on a second, you still have no response. Why? Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said a prophet cannot die on a mistake. If Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was making a mistake by telling his date of birth, it was God's responsibility to correct him.
Because it's a sign.